Captain Elias Ward had once traveled across the black oceans of space. He had piloted ships through dangerous asteroid belts, seen stars born in clouds of fire, and walked on silent moons where no human foot had stepped before. But now, after years of service, he lived a quiet life in a small cabin beside Lake Mariner on Earth. The lake was calm and deep, surrounded by tall pine trees whose tops swayed gently with the evening wind. It was late autumn, and the air held a cool sharpness. The sky above the lake carried 1,000 stars, their reflections shimmering across the dark surface. Elias enjoyed these nights. They gave him peace after a lifetime of noise and commands. He often sat on the wooden dock behind his cabin with a cup of tea in hand, listening to the soft lapping of water against the shore. That evening, however, something unusual disturbed the calm. As Elias gazed across the quiet lake, a faint green flicker flashed beneath the water far from shore. At first, he thought it might be a trick of moonlight or a reflection from a distant satellite. He rubbed his eyes and looked again. The light pulsed once more, stronger this time, like a heartbeat. He set his cup aside and leaned forward. The light came again, steady and bright, forming a thin column that rose toward the surface before fading away. It looked nothing like the glow of a boat lamp or a diver's torch. Instead, it carried a soft, almost living quality, as if the lake itself was breathing. Elias frowned. His years of space travel had taught him that unexplained signals usually meant trouble, or discovery. Curiosity stirred in him like an old friend. He stood, zipped up his jacket, and walked to the end of the dock. The night air grew colder, but the flickering light warmed the water with a strange emerald hue. Then he heard it. A sound carried across the lake, faint but clear. It was not the cry of a bird or the splash of a fish. It was a voice, melodic and trembling, calling out in a tone that made the hair on his neck stand. The words were soft and stretched, impossible to understand, but the meaning was unmistakable. A call for help. Elias felt a sudden jolt of urgency. Someone or something was out there in trouble. He quickly grabbed a small emergency lamp from the cabin wall and shone it toward the center of the lake. The beam reached only halfway, swallowed by the dark water, but he caught a glimpse of movement. Something, or someone, floated in the green glow, drifting helplessly. Without hesitation, Elias ran to the side of the dock where his small hover raft was moored. He released the rope and started the quiet engine. The raft hummed to life, gliding smoothly across the black water. His heart pounded as he steered toward the flickering column of light. As he drew closer, the strange energy became stronger. The surface of the lake rippled in perfect circles as if stirred by an invisible hand. Tiny sparks of light danced along the waves, surrounding the raft with a faint glow. Elias felt the air grow warmer despite the cold night. The voice came again, clearer now but still in a language unknown to him. It carried a gentle rhythm, almost like a song, filled with fear and desperation. He tightened his grip on the steering lever and focused on the source. Finally, he saw her. A figure floated just beneath the surface, glowing softly against the dark water. At first glance, it seemed human. A slender body, long limbs, and hair that shimmered like liquid silver. But as the raft drew near, Elias realized she was not human at all. Her skin glowed faintly with a pale blue hue, and faint patterns of light traced along her arms and neck like tiny constellations. She was sinking. "Hold on," Elias shouted instinctively, though he knew she might not understand. He cut the engine and grabbed a coil of rope. But the distance was too great, and she slipped further beneath the surface. There was no time to think. Years of training took over. Elias stripped off his jacket, kicked off his boots, and dove into the icy water. The cold bit into his skin like knives, but he pushed forward, muscles remembering the movements of countless zero-gravity swims. He followed the glow, kicking hard as the green light deepened around him. The water seemed alive, swirling in strange currents that tugged at his arms and legs. He fought them with steady strokes, eyes locked on the sinking figure below. Tiny bubbles escaped from her mouth as she drifted downward, her silver hair flowing like a comet's tail. Elias reached out and caught her arm. The skin beneath his fingers felt smooth and strangely warm despite the cold water. Her eyes opened weakly, revealing irises of deep sapphire that glowed faintly in the dark. For a brief moment their gazes met, and Elias felt a wave of emotions that words could never express. Fear, gratitude, and something else he could not name. He tightened his grip and kicked upward with all his strength. The strange currents pulled against him, but he pushed harder, lungs burning. The surface seemed impossibly far, but he refused to let go. At last they broke through. Elias gasped for air as he dragged the figure toward the raft. He hooked one arm over the side and heaved her onto the deck. She was lighter than he expected, her body almost weightless in his arms. He climbed aboard, shivering from the cold. The alien woman lay motionless on the raft floor, her chest rising only faintly. Tiny sparks of blue light flickered across her skin like fading stars. "Stay with me," Elias muttered, though he knew she might not understand. He placed her on her back and checked for breathing. It was shallow and irregular. Using the emergency training he had learned during his pilot days, he began careful life-saving measures, pressing gently on her chest and giving short breaths of air. For a tense moment, nothing happened. The lake around them glowed faintly as if holding its breath. Then she coughed softly, a sound like a distant chime, and water trickled from her lips. Her chest rose with a weak but steady rhythm. Relief washed over Elias. "Good. Good," he whispered. The alien woman opened her eyes, their sapphire light brighter now. She looked at him with a mixture of confusion and wonder. Slowly, she raised a trembling hand and touched his arm. Her fingers were delicate and warm despite the cold night. Though she said nothing he could understand, the meaning was clear. "Thank you." Elias gave a small nod. "You're safe now," he said softly, though he doubted the words carried meaning beyond his tone. Behind them, the column of green light began to fade, sinking back into the depths of Lake Mariner. The strange currents calmed, leaving only the gentle rocking of the raft. But Elias knew the night was far from ordinary. This was no simple rescue. The woman lying beside him was no earthly swimmer, and the fading glow below hinted that something far greater, perhaps dangerous, perhaps wondrous, had brought her here. As he guided the raft back toward the shore, Elias kept glancing at the quiet figure resting against the deck. Her breathing was steady now, but her presence raised countless questions. Who was she? Where had she come from? And what power had created that shimmering light beneath the lake? The answers, he knew, would change his peaceful life forever. But for now, only one truth mattered: he had saved a life. And that single act of courage had already begun a story larger than anything he could imagine. The small hover raft glided back toward the lonely dock, cutting a gentle trail across the still water. The night around Lake Mariner remained calm, but Captain Elias Ward felt anything but calm inside. His wet clothes clung to his skin and the cold air bit into his muscles. Yet his mind was locked on the glowing stranger who now lay across the deck. She rested on a folded emergency blanket, motionless except for the slow rise and fall of her chest. The faint blue glow of her skin dimmed and brightened in quiet rhythm, like the soft breathing of a sleeping star. Elias knelt beside her, checking for signs of distress. Her breathing had steadied, though it remained lighter than any human's. Tiny sparks of light moved across her arms, chasing one another like streams of living fireflies. He reached for a dry thermal sheet from the raft's supply compartment and carefully covered her shoulders. The sheet clung to her smooth silver-blue skin. For a brief moment, Elias wondered if the material might harm her, but she made no sign of discomfort. Instead, her eyes flickered open, glowing faintly in the dark. Their gazes met. The sight startled him again. Her eyes were unlike anything he had seen in all his years of space travel. They held no whites or pupils, only deep sapphire pools that shimmered with tiny star-like points. They seemed to hold both warmth and an endless distance, as if galaxies lived within them. "You're safe," Elias said softly. His voice sounded rough in the cool air. He did not know whether she could understand his words, but he hoped the gentle tone carried meaning. The alien woman tilted her head slightly, her silver hair sliding across the blanket like liquid light. Her lips parted as though to speak, but only a quiet, melodic sound escaped. The notes rose and fell like a soft tune played on glass. Elias listened carefully. The sound carried no human words, yet there was something unmistakable inside it. Gratitude. "You're welcome," he replied, offering a small nod. The woman blinked slowly, then raised a trembling hand. Her fingers, long and elegant, shimmered faintly in the starlight as she touched her chest. She repeated the motion twice, then extended her hand toward him, palm open. Elias recognized the universal sign of introduction. He placed his hand gently against hers. To his surprise, warmth flowed instantly through his palm, spreading up his arm like a gentle current. In that single touch, a wave of images burst into his mind, Shapes of stars, swirling clouds of color, and flashes of distant worlds. None of the images lasted more than a heartbeat, yet they left him breathless. The woman withdrew her hand, watching him carefully. "You can send thoughts," Elias murmured, realization dawning. "Telepathy." She tilted her head again, as if acknowledging his guess. A faint smile, delicate and almost shy, touched her lips. The raft bumped softly against the wooden dock, ending their quiet exchange. Elias secured the mooring rope and prepared to lift her onto the platform. The thought of carrying an alien visitor through the quiet forest might have frightened another person, but Elias felt only a steady determination. Years of exploring dangerous planets had taught him to trust both his instincts and his heart. "Let's get you warm," he said. He carefully slid his arms beneath her shoulders and knees. She was astonishingly light, almost as if the lake water had not fully released its hold. As he lifted her, a soft hum of energy radiated from her body, not painful but strangely comforting. He stepped onto the dock and made his way toward the cabin, boots leaving wet prints on the wooden planks. The cabin stood only a few meters away, its windows glowing faintly with the warm light he had left earlier. Inside, the air carried the scent of pine wood and tea. Elias laid the woman gently on the long couch near the fireplace. He quickly added dry logs to the fire until flames leapt high, filling the room with a golden glow. Steam curled from the kettle on the stove. Elias poured hot water into a mug and placed it near the couch, though he doubted she would drink it. Still, the simple act felt right. The woman watched his movements with curious eyes, her head turning slowly as she studied the room, the shelves filled with star charts, the framed photographs of distant planets, the old pilot's jacket hanging near the door. Every detail seemed to draw her attention, as if Earth's simple objects held secrets she longed to understand. Elias sat on a small stool beside the couch. "Can you tell me your name?" he asked gently. For a moment, there was only the quiet crackle of fire. Then the woman placed a hand over her heart and closed her eyes. The air around her shimmered faintly, and a single clear word formed in Elias's mind, soft as a whisper carried on starlight. "Lyra." The name echoed in his thoughts, not spoken but given. "Lyra," he repeated aloud. The woman opened her eyes and gave a small nod. Images followed, flashes of a sleek crystal vessel gliding through black space, a sudden burst of light, the violent spin of a damaged engine. He saw a blue-green planet, Earth from high above, then a sudden plunge toward a wide lake ringed with trees. "You crashed," Elias said slowly, piecing the vision together. "Your ship malfunctioned." Lyra's faint smile faded. She gave a soft, melodic tone, low and sorrowful, and lowered her eyes. Tiny ripples of light moved across her skin, dimmer now. Elias felt a surge of protective instinct. "You're safe here," he assured her. "No harm will come to you." Before Lyra could respond, a sharp thrum vibrated through the wooden walls of the cabin. Elias froze. The sound was low but unmistakable, the hum of advanced machinery approaching from the night sky. Lyra's eyes widened, their sapphire glow flickering. She turned toward the window and whispered a single mental image into his mind. A silver drone, sleek and angular, scanning the lake with bright search beams. "Someone is looking for you," Elias said. Lyra nodded once, her expression tense. She reached toward him, sending another burst of thought, images of the drone capturing signals, erasing evidence, and perhaps harming anyone who interfered. Elias stood quickly. "We need to stay quiet," he said. "Come on." He helped Lyra to her feet. Though still weak, she moved with surprising grace. Together they crossed the small room, and Elias guided her to a narrow storage space at the back of the cabin. It was lined with old space gear and survival packs, tight but hidden from outside view. The hum grew louder, vibrating through the floorboards. Elias peeked through a narrow crack in the door. A thin beam of blue light swept across the lake, moving in precise arcs as if searching for a lost signal. The source remained out of sight, but the sound of its engine carried a cold, mechanical rhythm that set his teeth on edge. He closed the door softly and turned to Lyra. Her glowing eyes met his, and for a brief instant another wave of thoughts flowed into his mind. He saw her home world, towers of crystal beneath twin suns, and heard a silent plea. "Please do not let them take me yet." Elias gave a firm nod. "I won't," he whispered. They waited in tense silence as the drone passed overhead. The cabin trembled under the unseen craft. Elias held his breath, listening for any sign of discovery. After several long minutes, the hum began to fade, moving slowly away across the forested hills. Lyra exhaled a soft, musical note of relief. The glow on her skin brightened slightly, returning to its earlier gentle pulse. Elias allowed himself a careful breath. "Looks like they haven't found you." "Not yet." Lyra raised her hand and lightly touched his sleeve. A fresh image entered his mind. Stars beyond Earth, ships of brilliant light, and a promise of worlds he could scarcely imagine. It came with a feeling of deep gratitude, warm and steady. Elias met her glowing eyes and managed a faint smile. "You're welcome," he said again, "but we're not safe for long. We need a plan." Outside, the lake returned to silence, but Elias knew the quiet was only temporary. Whatever had brought Lyra to Earth was far from finished. Somewhere above the stars, forces he did not yet understand were already searching, and tonight, a single act of human bravery had drawn him into a mystery that would test every skill he possessed. The rescue was only the beginning. Morning arrived quietly over Lake Mariner, painting the pine trees in shades of gold and silver. A soft mist floated above the water, hiding the gentle ripples that still glowed faintly from the night before. Inside the cabin, Captain Elias Ward stirred from a light sleep, his mind heavy with questions. The memories of the night's rescue remained sharp. He had carried an alien woman from a lake filled with strange lights, hidden her from a scanning drone, and shared thoughts with a mind not of this world. Now, in the calm daylight, it felt almost like a dream, yet Lyra's soft breathing from the couch reminded him it was very real. She lay wrapped in the thermal sheet, her silver blue skin reflecting the morning light. The faint glow of her body pulsed gently, like a quiet heartbeat of distant stars. Elias knelt beside her, checking her condition. Her breathing was steady and her eyes fluttered open as if sensing his presence. "Good morning," Elias said softly. He offered a warm smile, though a dozen questions pressed at his mind. Lyra blinked slowly, the sapphire points in her eyes sparkling. She sat up with graceful movements, her long hair shimmering like liquid silver in the sunlight. When she looked at him, a wave of gentle thoughts filled his mind. Greetings, gratitude, and the calm warmth of trust. "You're recovering," Elias said, relieved. "That's good." Lyra tilted her head, then reached out with a delicate hand. Her fingers touched his temple, and the connection formed again, stronger than before. Images unfolded in his mind like a silent movie. He saw a ship of crystal and light gliding through the endless black of space. Its panels shifted color like living glass, carrying reflections of distant suns. Inside, tall figures with glowing patterns on their skin moved with calm precision. They were Lyra's people, the Andalari. Through flashes of memory, Elias understood their mission. The Andalari were explorers, scientists of the stars. They traveled not to conquer, but to observe, to learn about the countless forms of life across galaxies. Lyra herself was a stellar cartographer, a mapper of cosmic currents and living worlds. Then came the accident. He saw a sudden burst of bright energy, a violent surge that ripped through the ship's engines. Lyra's small scout vessel spun out of control, caught in a wave of gravitational turbulence. Instruments failed, alarms screamed, and the black void gave way to the blue-green glow of Earth. Her craft plunged toward a quiet planet she had only studied from afar. Elias felt her fear as the vessel broke through the atmosphere. He saw the crash into Lake Mariner, the glowing energy that leaked from the damaged engine, and her desperate struggle to escape as the ship sank beneath the cold waters. The images faded. Lyra's hand lowered and she exhaled a soft, musical sigh. Elias sat back, absorbing what he had seen. "You came here to study," he said slowly. "But something went wrong." Lyra gave a faint nod. A single word formed in his mind, gentle but urgent. "Danger." Elias frowned. "Danger from your ship?" Another wave of images followed, this time of the silver drone that had scanned the lake the night before. Elias watched its sleek body move across the water like a hunting bird. Lyra's thoughts explained what words could not. The drone was an auto-reclaimer, a device sent to recover lost technology. Its mission was simple: locate the crashed vessel and erase any evidence of alien presence. But there was more. Lyra's mind revealed that the drone, programmed to protect Andalari secrets, would treat any human witness as a contamination risk. It would not hesitate to destroy anything or anyone that threatened its mission. Elias clenched his jaw. So it's not just looking for you. It's prepared to harm me too. Lyra's eyes dimmed with regret. She sent a wave of apology, a quiet sadness that touched his heart. Don't apologize, Elias said firmly. You didn't ask for this. We'll deal with it together. His words carried confidence, but inside he felt a flicker of unease. He had faced dangerous machines in distant worlds, but never on his own home planet. The idea of a self-guided alien drone scanning the forests around Lake Mariner filled him with cold determination. He stood and paced across the cabin, thinking. Your ship is still under the lake, isn't it? Lyra nodded again. If the drone finds it, it might trigger something worse, Elias continued. Can we shut it down first? Disable the signal? Lyra raised a trembling hand and sent another vision. She showed a glowing crystal sphere deep inside her sunken ship, a core beacon. The sphere held both the map of her journey and the power supply that fed the drone's signal. If they could reach the core before the drone, they could disable the call for recovery. But the images also showed danger. The core rested deep in the cold lake, protected by swirling currents of unstable energy. To reach it, someone would have to dive into waters alive with unpredictable forces. Elias nodded slowly. I've done hard dives before. Dangerous ones, but we'll need a plan. Lyra looked at him with quiet intensity, sending a feeling of cautious hope. Before they could speak further, a distant hum broke the morning stillness. Elias stiffened. The sound was faint but unmistakable, a rhythmic vibration of advanced engines moving across the sky. He crossed to the window and peered through the trees. High above the lake, a thin silver shape glinted in the sunlight. The drone was back, its sleek body slicing across the clouds as it scanned the water below. Elias turned to Lyra. It's searching again. We don't have much time. Lyra closed her eyes, sending a mental image of the drone's scanning pattern. He saw flashes of blue light moving across the lake in precise grids, each sweep narrowing the search zone. At this rate, it would find the sunken ship before nightfall. We need to reach the core before it does, Elias said. Lyra stood slowly, still weak but steadier than before. She extended her hand and sent another burst of thought, an idea. She could guide him to the ship through a telepathic link, sharing her knowledge of the currents and safe paths. But she warned of the dangers: unstable energy, sharp debris, and the risk of the drone detecting their movement. Elias accepted without hesitation. If there's a chance to stop it, I'm going, he said firmly. Lyra's eyes glowed with a mix of fear and admiration. A soft melody formed in his mind, carrying a meaning he recognized even without words. Human courage is rare. Elias gave a faint smile. You'd be surprised what humans can do. They began preparing. Elias retrieved his old space pilot gear from a storage trunk, lightweight oxygen tanks, a reinforced wetsuit, and a helmet equipped with underwater sensors. He checked each piece carefully, remembering the countless times this equipment had saved his life among the stars. Lyra moved to the door and opened it slightly. Her eyes scanned the forest beyond, their glow brightening as she sensed the drone's movements. A soft mental pulse reached Elias, a quiet map of the safest path to the lake. Let's go, he said. They stepped into the cool morning air. The forest smelled of damp earth and pine, the mist still curling between the trees. Elias carried his gear while Lyra walked beside him, her silver hair catching stray beams of sunlight. Despite the danger, a strange calm settled over them. As they reached the dock, the lake stretched before them like a giant mirror. Beneath its calm surface lay the core beacon, and the next stage of their challenge. Elias turned to Lyra. Once I'm in, keep the link strong. Guide me straight to it. Lyra placed her hand gently against his temple. A warm wave of connection filled his mind, steady and clear. He felt her presence like a quiet star, ready to guide him through the dark. The drone's distant hum grew louder. Time was running out. Elias tightened the straps of his suit and stepped onto the edge of the dock. Let's save your ship, he said with a confident nod. Lyra met his gaze, her sapphire eyes shining with trust. A soft melodic note filled the air, her way of saying good luck. Without another word, Elias dived into the shimmering depths of Lake Mariner, the cold water closing around him like a curtain of stars. The real test had begun. The surface of Lake Mariner was calm, a silver mirror under the pale morning sun. But beneath its quiet waves, danger waited. Captain Elias Ward adjusted his helmet and secured his oxygen supply. Every motion of his body was precise, honed from years of training in the most extreme environments. Today he would face a challenge unlike any other, reaching the core beacon of Lyra's sunken ship while avoiding detection by a relentless Andalari drone. Lyra floated near the dock, her silver hair catching the light, glowing softly. She placed a hand against Elias's helmet, sending a pulse of guidance directly into his mind. He felt her presence steady him like a star shining through the darkness of space. "Ready?" she asked, her voice forming in his thoughts. Elias nodded. "Ready as I'll ever be." He took a deep breath and dove into the water. Instantly, the cold closed around him, sharp and biting. Tiny bubbles trailed from his mask as he propelled himself downward, following the faint blue glow of Lyra's telepathic link. The deeper he went, the stranger the lake became. The current swirled unpredictably as though the water itself resisted him. He pushed against invisible forces, remembering Lyra's warning. The lake's energy had shifted when her ship crashed, creating unstable zones. One wrong move and the currents could pull him into the dark depths or worse, damage the core beacon. As he swam deeper, fragments of the sunken ship came into view. Broken panels reflected his helmet light like shards of ice. Sparks of residual energy flickered along the hull, painting the water with shimmering colors. Elias approached cautiously, aware that a single misstep could trigger a protective field around the core, sending him back to the surface. Lyra's presence in his mind grew stronger, guiding him past dangerous obstacles. "Left," she projected. "Avoid the broken panel." "Too sharp." He twisted his body, narrowly avoiding jagged metal. Tiny bubbles escaped his suit as he moved forward. Then he saw it, the core beacon. It rested in the center of the ship's collapsed frame, a crystal sphere glowing faintly with blue light. Pulses of energy radiated outward like the heartbeat of the vessel itself. Elias approached slowly. The core was mesmerizing, smooth, almost liquid in appearance, yet solid and strong. He could feel the power it contained, a low vibration against the surface of his gloves. Carefully, he lifted the sphere. A surge of energy shot through his arms, but he maintained control, letting the flow move around him instead of against him. Then came a sudden shift. The water around him rippled violently, and a bright beam of light sliced through the depths. The drone had found him. Elias froze, his heart pounding. The silver machine moved with deadly precision, scanning for the source of the core's signal. Its sensors glowed bright blue, illuminating the wreckage around him. He could feel the drone's intelligence analyzing his every motion. Any detection could trigger an automated response and destruction. Lyra's voice reached him in a wave of calm thoughts. "Distract it. Now." He remembered an old trick from his piloting days. Misdirection. With careful movements, he released a small reflective panel from the ship's debris, letting it drift upward. The beam of the drone followed the glittering fragment, scanning the wrong location. Elias seized the moment, swimming swiftly toward the core's exit path. The currents fought him. Twisting metal tried to snag his suit. Cold stung his face, and the pressure of the water made every stroke exhausting. But Lyra's presence guided him, sending gentle pulses of reassurance. "You can do this," she projected. "Trust yourself." Minutes stretched like hours. The drone adjusted its path, sensing something moving. But Elias stayed just out of reach, weaving through a maze of metal and energy currents. The core beacon's light pulsed steadily in his gloves, anchoring him to his goal. Finally, he saw the surface of the lake ahead, faint sunlight filtering through the water. The exit point was narrow, surrounded by sharp debris from the ship's crash. He pushed forward with all his strength, kicking against the heavy current. His lungs burned, his muscles screamed, but he refused to falter. As he broke through the last layer of debris, a surge of relief swept over him. The cold surface air rushed into his suit and he ascended, core beacon in hand, toward the waiting raft. Lyra floated above, glowing brightly. "You made it," she projected, her relief washing through his mind. Elias climbed onto the raft, drenched and exhausted but triumphant. The core pulsed gently in his hands, safe from the drone's detection. He set it carefully on the deck and watched the water below. The drone circled above, scanning, its blue light sweeping the waves. Elias knew it could not detect the core now, but it was still a threat. He needed a plan to send a message to Lyra's fleet before the drone escalated its response. Lyra's eyes met his, glowing with gratitude. She projected an idea. A coded signal from the core itself could override the drone's programming. If Elias activated the beacon while holding it close, the energy pulses would reach her fleet, informing them that she was safe and that a human was helping her. Elias nodded. Let's do it. He held the core carefully, aligning it with the raft's small sensor pad. A soft hum began to rise, building in strength. Blue light radiated outward, blending with the green glow of the lake's depths. Elias could feel the energy pulsing through his body, but he remained steady, focusing on the task. Above, the drone reacted. Its sensors glowed brighter, adjusting to the energy field. Elias tensed, ready for a confrontation, but he trusted Lyra's guidance. Just a little longer. Finally, the core emitted a strong pulse, sending a wave of energy upward. The light flared, reaching into the sky, visible even to the clouds above. The drone faltered, its systems receiving the coded override. Its sensors blinked, recalibrated, and then it slowly backed away, leaving the lake and the forest untouched. Elias exhaled deeply. The immediate danger was gone. Lyra floated to the raft, her glowing form shimmering in the morning sun. She reached out, sending a wave of thoughts filled with thanks and admiration. Human courage is rare. You risked yourself for me? Elias smiled wearily. I've done my share of dangerous things. But saving you, this matters more. They shared a quiet moment, the core pulsing softly between them. The lake was calm again, but both knew this was only the beginning. Lyra's ship could be recovered, but the Andalari fleet would soon arrive. Their connection had already sent a signal across the stars. A bridge had been formed between two worlds. Ready to return to the cabin? Elias asked. Lyra nodded, her luminous eyes reflecting both the sunlight and the faint green glow still lingering in the water. As they made their way back, Elias couldn't help but marvel at what had happened. A human, alone on a quiet Earth lake, had faced an alien drone, recovered a powerful artifact, and survived. And yet the best part wasn't the victory. It was the trust that had grown between him and Lyra, a silent promise that humans and Andalari could work together. The hover raft cut through the water, carrying them safely to the dock. Elias lifted the core gently, setting it inside the cabin where it would remain secure until Lyra's fleet arrived. She hovered near the hearth, sending waves of calm into his mind as if to remind him that despite the danger, they had succeeded. Outside, the sun rose higher, scattering the last wisps of mist across the lake. The world seemed unchanged, peaceful, and quiet. Yet beneath the surface, events were already moving faster than either of them could anticipate. The Andalari fleet would arrive soon, and with it new challenges and rewards. Elias took a deep breath and looked at Lyra. "You're safe now," he said, though he knew that safety was only temporary. "We've passed the first test." Lyra's eyes glowed brighter, and a soft melodic sound filled the cabin, a song of gratitude, trust, and hope. In that moment, Elias understood something deeper than any lesson learned in space travel. Courage, compassion, and quick thinking could shape not only survival, but the destiny of worlds. He smiled. "Whatever comes next," he said, "we'll face it together." The morning sun glimmered over Lake Mariner, scattering light across the water's calm surface. Captain Elias Ward stood at the cabin's dock, still soaked from the night's underwater mission, yet filled with a sense of quiet triumph. The core beacon, secured safely inside the cabin, pulsed faintly, sending subtle waves of energy into the air. Beside him, Lyra hovered gently, her silver-blue form glowing softly in the sunlight. "Do you think they'll come soon?" Elias asked, glancing toward the distant horizon. Lyra tilted her head, sending a pulse of calm into his mind. The connection was growing stronger with each passing hour. Through it, he could sense the approach of her fleet. Massive vessels glimmered in orbit high above Earth, their crystal-like hulls reflecting sunlight like shards of frozen rain. "They will arrive," she projected into his thoughts. "They know I am safe." "They will come," Elias nodded. He could hardly believe how a simple act of courage, rescuing a drowning alien woman, had set these events into motion. The magnitude of what he had done only became clear now. He had not only saved a life but had become the bridge between humans and an advanced alien civilization. Minutes later, a soft vibration rippled through the air, followed by a brilliant flash of light above the lake. Elias shielded his eyes. Slowly, one by one, the Andalari ships descended from orbit. Their hulls were enormous, gleaming like liquid crystal, casting prismatic reflections over the trees and water. The fleet moved with perfect precision, silent but overwhelming in its beauty and power. Lyra's eyes brightened. She sent a wave of thoughts into Elias's mind, guiding him to remain calm. Do not fear. They come to honor you. The largest vessel, a mothership taller than the tallest pines around the lake, hovered above the water. A panel opened along its side, revealing a ramp of glowing light. From it, several Andalari figures descended, their tall forms and luminous skin unlike anything Elias had ever seen. Despite their alien appearance, there was a grace and nobility in their movement that reminded him of the explorers he had once met among the stars. Lyra stepped forward, her glow intensifying. "This is Captain Elias Ward," she projected into the minds of her people. "He saved me from the lake and recovered the core beacon. His bravery deserves recognition." The Andalari paused, observing Elias with calm curiosity. One of them, taller than the rest, stepped forward. His skin shimmered with deep blue patterns and his eyes radiated intelligence and authority. "Human," the figure said aloud, his voice surprisingly melodic. "You have risked yourself to save a member of our kind. Your actions are noted. You have shown courage, empathy, and resourcefulness." Elias bowed slightly, a habit from his years of formal space operations. "I only did what I thought was right," he said. "No one should be left to drown." The leader's eyes glowed brighter. "And yet your actions have consequences far beyond this planet. You have become the first human we have trusted with our knowledge and our honor." Lyra floated beside him, sending another wave of reassurance. Elias felt a warmth in his chest, pride mixed with wonder. He had expected gratitude, perhaps a polite acknowledgement, but the presence of the Andalari fleet and the words of their leader surpassed his wildest expectations. "You will receive a reward," the leader continued, "a symbol of trust and friendship between your species and ours." From the mothership, a glowing object descended in a beam of light. Elias reached out as the beam gently lowered a small crystal sphere into his hands. It pulsed softly with energy, the surface smooth and warm to the touch. Through the sphere, he could sense the movements of distant stars, the faint hum of interstellar currents, and the presence of Lyra's people across galaxies. Lyra smiled, sending a wave of joy into his mind. "This is your reward, a tool, a gift, and a link between worlds." Elias examined the sphere carefully. It was heavier than it looked, but the energy within seemed to guide his thoughts, clarifying paths and distances beyond Earth. He realized that with this, he could explore the stars in ways humans had only dreamed of. The possibilities were staggering. "Thank you," he said sincerely, looking at Lyra first, then at the Andalari commander. I don't know what to say." "You need not speak," the commander replied. "Your actions have already spoken louder than words. Honor and courage are universal. You have proven that humans can rise to challenges that many of our kind would find dangerous or impossible." Elias felt a surge of humility. He had faced danger countless times among the stars, but he had never felt such recognition, especially not for doing what he considered the simplest act: saving a life. Lyra extended her hand to him. He took it, and instantly the telepathic bond deepened. Images of star systems, nebulae, and alien worlds flashed through his mind. She guided him gently, teaching him how to focus on the sphere and access its knowledge safely. "The core beacon will guide you," she projected. "It contains maps and knowledge of many systems. You can learn from it, explore, and understand. It is also a bond, linking you to our fleet whenever necessary." Elias marveled at the scope of what he now held. In his hands was not just a gift, but a promise of discovery, adventure, and friendship between two civilizations. Outside, the fleet began to ascend slowly. The mothership and its escort ships shimmered in the sunlight, rising above the tree line and heading back into orbit. Elias watched them go, feeling both awe and a strange pang of longing. He had helped save Lyra and her vessel, and now the universe seemed a little smaller, a little more connected. Lyra hovered near him, her glowing form softening in the morning light. "Will you visit our worlds?" she asked, projecting her thoughts with gentle curiosity. Elias smiled. I think I will," he replied. "There's so much to learn, and so much I want to see." She touched the crystal sphere, sending a final pulse of energy into his mind. Through it, he saw new stars, distant planets with oceans and mountains unlike Earth's, cities of crystal that reflected entire suns, and creatures of light that moved with a grace humans could barely imagine. He realized that his simple act of compassion had opened a door to the universe itself. The calm of Lake Mariner returned. Birds chirped in the surrounding pines, and the water reflected the bright morning sun. Elias looked at the dock where he had rescued Lyra, remembering the fear and excitement of that first dive. A single act of courage had set events into motion that he could never have imagined. Lyra's glowing eyes met his, filled with warmth and gratitude. "You are more than a human hero," she projected. "You are a bridge between worlds." Elias nodded, feeling a mixture of pride and humility. "Then I will do my best," he said, "to honor your trust, to honor both our worlds." For a long moment they remained together on the dock, watching the sunlight dance across the lake. The crystal sphere pulsed gently between them, a symbol of friendship, courage, and shared destiny. Finally, Lyra floated slightly upward, sending another wave of gratitude. "We will meet again. Soon." Elias watched her silhouette fade into the sky, her glow dimming as she rose to rejoin her fleet. The lake was quiet once more, the world seeming unchanged, yet he knew everything had shifted. The universe was now open to him in ways he had never imagined. He turned back toward the cabin. The core beacon rested safely inside, its energy humming like a heartbeat. A new journey awaited, one of exploration, understanding, and cooperation. And he, a simple human from Earth, had been entrusted with its beginning. Elias sat on the dock, gazing at the horizon where the sunlight met the distant mountains. He felt a deep sense of purpose. His courage had made a difference not just for one life, but for the connection between two civilizations. The day was bright, the air crisp, and the lake calm. But in his mind the stars called to him full of promise, waiting for the next adventure. Captain Elias Ward had saved a life, faced a challenge no human had ever faced before, and received a reward beyond imagination. He smiled, feeling the pulse of the universe in his hands. And in that moment, he knew one truth above all. Humanity was capable of greatness, compassion, and heroism that could span worlds. For the first time in a long time, he felt the thrill of the unknown, the kind of adventure he had always dreamed of, now within reach. And so, the quiet human from Lake Mariner looked to the stars, ready to step into a future where courage, empathy, and the human spirit would shine among the galaxies.